think I heard it all at the chat with the chief.
You'd be very interested. my contractor, he'll come one good, keep up, go. Life's good, man.
It's just a little.
Just give it to everybody. And that's why the gentleman back there is there. And that's I don't know about. I walked in, he said they implied that, but it's
And it was too much for him. He did a few brunches and things.
Oh, I'm sure he's a great show.
I thought.
You do that.
I guess I was also going to say that makes more sense actually than up there. That's better. Story will be like brand new.
Me too. We didn't get it.
Oh, no.
Why don't I make
Well, I'm trying to deal with it.
I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? I'm like, I can't even.
Agendas. The Wi-Fi's not working. We're good. We just don't have the full contract awards.
Did you see the bid?
Any extras?
Give me one that's staying out.
Actually, yeah. You're fine. I'm a terrible person. We're good.
I did.
Have like a 1 minute.
I did.
1 minute warning.
I'm on camera.
Sort of signal. Jason, are we good to go? Thank you. Well, we officially now have standing room only. Thanks, Madonna. All right, it is close enough to 6 o'clock Yelm time where we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and we do so by saluting the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And will the clerk take the roll call, please?
Council members E.J. Curry. Here. Molly Carmody. Here. Cody Colt.
Here.
Ted Stillwell.
Here.
Tracy Wood.
Here.
Jody Pinto.
Here.
Terry Kaminsky. Here. Mayor J.W. Foster.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go on to special presentations and so forth, well, first off, could I have an approval of the agenda, please?
Move to approve this evening's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I want to welcome everybody to our new digs. If you haven't been to a Yelm City Council meeting before, we've decided to get cozier in this new space. There are some things to know about this. Number one, this round object up here is a omnidirectional camera. So at any point in time, you can be on camera. Probably that time you scratch your nose is when you will be on camera. Also, when we look at this being streamed, there's split screens, and so usually the person who's speaking is on camera at the time. It is being, if everything's working well, it's being streamed out into the lobby as well, although there's a 30-second delay in how that works through the magic of the internet and so forth. So it could be really weird if you're standing by the door and you're getting that delay. Thirdly, the microphone that's associated with this recording system is always on and very sensitive. So even though you might think you're whispering quietly to your neighbor, it may actually be recorded and for all the world to hear later on. So just wanted to caution you about that. As we get used to this new facility, we realized that we hadn't really accommodated folks' needs to use the restrooms at these meetings. We do have a public restroom available, but we will have somebody who would need to escort you back to use the bathroom so that we can keep the rest of the facility secure. Sound good? All right, very good. All right, then, with all that said, we get on to our special presentations, and it's always an honor and a thrill for us to start the school year again, and we start off by honoring one of our high school students who has stood out amongst all the other high school students, which is hard to do because we have a lot of really great students. Oh, and by the way, we have some students from Mrs. Wasson-Carey's government class. Here, raise your hands. And so we'll expect questions and commentary from them throughout the evening, I'm sure. They get extra points for being here. We partner with the school district and with the Rotary Club of Yelm to choose a student of the month, and then at the end of the year they get a student of the year award from those recipients of the student of the month. We've also partnered with local businesses and banks, so they not only get this lovely plaque, which you'll see shortly, but they get a certificate of deposit from Ole Fed. They get another certificate from Twin Star. They get certificates from Walmart, from Shiplap, from Masonry Cafe, and La Gitana, and a lovely plaque. So it's really, and they get the notoriety within their school of being chosen as the student of the month. This month we have a very special student, and I believe his family are here. So not only is Coulter soon to be a graduate of Yelm High School, but am I right in that his mother and his grandmother all graduated from Yelm High School as well?
Sixth generation Yelm High.
Sixth generation, before we even had a high school. It's a different building anyway. So we are proud to announce the September Student of the Month as Coulter Weavedow. Coulter is an exemplary Yelm High School senior. He's also on the Yelm Youth City Council, a member of the Yelm High School ASB Public Relations as their relations officer, and logged an impressive 3,600 volunteer hours before he even hit his senior year. Not only does he volunteer his time at school, he also coordinates volunteers for Yelm Community Services and volunteers at the food bank himself, which he has done for many years. Coulter is a shining example of what service means to so many Yelm High School students. We'll have Coulter stand up and come forward. Council, if you would. We haven't done one in this. Coulter, let's get right here, and then council can be on either side of us. Do the little shaking hands and grabbing the plaque and looking at Mom. Okay. And now looking at Rotary. And now looking at Bob Coral. Everybody good? One more for Mom. Okay, good. Now shake hands with everybody else, and I'll give this back in a minute. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, good work.
What about us?
Congratulations.
Oh, I always forget you. Come on. That, okay, redo. I forgot my friends from Rotary. I think that's a $1,000 fine.
I think when you
At my
come
next
to the
Rotary meeting.
yeah, on Thursday, you're gonna get fined.
All right, Larry, come on over there. Fine is for everything. Yeah. Everybody good? Okay. And, all right. Now you can shake it. No, did you get everybody? Yeah. All right. One more. Here's your plaque. Here's yours. Here's what we read out. And are you in the same government fund? Oh, so you don't have to stick around. I always offer the student of the month the opportunity to stay for the rest of the meeting, but as you can see from his resume, he probably has several other things to go to. And Coulter, are you working at Shiplap as a broista now? Yeah. See you soon. As the Weavedos take off, that opens up 4 seats if our standing room only crowd, which is, some of them are actually standing room only members, aren't they? How appropriate. Let's see how many of these I get. Do I have 5? Oh, that's perfect. Okay, we have moved on now to our public commentary moment. I want to take a moment to preface this because glancing through these, they're pretty much all going to be on the same topic. At the public commentary portion of our city council meetings, it's an opportunity for citizens to come in and address the council on matters that are of importance to them. If it's an agended item, so we're going to deal with it at some point during the agenda, we would ask that those comments be made at that time. If it's not on the agenda, we would have this time at the beginning of the meeting to have those addresses made. In the consideration of everybody's time, we have a policy that's posted on the agenda that would limit presentations to a number of 5, and that each presentation should go no longer than 3 minutes. I'm going to have Lori help me with the 3-minute timer since we don't have the big one up. Keeping your comments to 3 minutes is challenging sometimes, and so just try to be present of that, and I'll kind of wave at you a little bit when you're getting close and you can wrap it up. Now, the other thing I want to preface this with is that I've noticed that I believe all 5 of the comments to council tonight have to do with homelessness, the homelessness task force, and things of that nature. And I would just want to make sure that you understand that no action's being taken by the council tonight. There's no presentation being made by the task force tonight. That's coming later on. And if you were misinformed through social media, well, that happens sometimes on social media. But always look at the agenda that's posted on the Yelm City Council website, or the Yelm City website. And we did notice something, there was an inconsistency. Actually, on the website, it said that the meetings were over there at the other building, so thank you for bringing that to our attention. They're here. Also, keep in mind that on the task force issue, there have been 3 public meetings at which people have been able to come and voice their opinions. The council members who lead that task force have heard your opinions loud and clear. If you're making additional commentary tonight, if you've been at those task force meetings and you've heard the commentary, if there's something new that you could add to the discussion, that would be very helpful, rather than to reiterate some of the points that have already been made. They have been heard very well. The recordings are there and they've been poured over. And of course, the task force set itself up to the task of looking at all of these data points and creating a document to present to City Council at large later in the year, hopefully in November, December, right? That's the idea. At which point the Council at large will look at each of those recommendations and consider them for action. That will be publicized as well, and the citizens would be welcome to come back and make additional commentary based on what you see being presented to Council. Fair enough? Okay. And so I do know, although I was not in attendance at the task force meetings on purpose, so that I could let the task force do its job, I do know that people got very emotional. And sometimes got a little loud. Just to let you know, we don't do that here at City Council meetings. We are a respectful society, and we will discuss things. I understand if you get anxious, if you're not used to public speaking, if you're emotional about the subject, that's going to come out, and we're not going to stop you from doing that, but we do want you to try to be respectful, and it's a small enough room where we can hear you pretty well. So with that, I'll call up in the order that I received these, and we'll start the timer when you start talking. So, Jane Cameron.
I know I'm on a time limit, so you can relax because it's on cards. So I'm going to have these, you guys, Joe, you pass these out. Molly, you pass these out onto the table.
Carrots. I believe those are carrots.
Yeah, they're organic. So
Okay.
Okay. We had a luncheon for the chamber, and one of the questions was, if we all got $1 million, what would we do for the community? My comment was that you read the small print. I've had a nonprofit for a while, and the nonprofits, we have to learn that when you get government grants or you're offered grants, You have to read the small print. It's really critical. This is what this is about. Okay. Any grants received by Yelm will have a carrot attached. That's a good thing, you know, because carrots are bonuses and perks. Virtually all government grants have a notice of funding availability. That's called NOFA. And I know a lot of you know that. It's attached, and this has to be signed by anyone requesting the grant. And so whoever decides, whatever happens to Yelm, it's basically you guys, because you guys, your signature is you represent the people. So the NOFA qualification contains the legal requirements of the grant plus any extra carrots that might be attached, the perks. Now, these perks can be in other places other than a very honorable, city like we have, and all of you guys who are just very honorable. The carrots can be used for their own good. They can put it in their pocket and do it bad. But good people and people who are really wanting to help the community, and you on the city council, could be going, wow, we're getting these carrots, and these carrots can maybe, we're really hurting for money, but look, we got these carrots, we can go help the community with these carrots. Okay, I'll fast read now. So, the carrots are the government's way of bypassing the constitutional law, forcing its programs on taxpayers, since the elected officials that have applied for the grant sign the NOFA. That NOFA is critical. You sign it, we're attached to it. In one case, many cities nationwide promise of a government funding was accomplished by requirements to provide housing for homeless and disadvantaged people. Even if there were no people who fit the description of that NOFA, they had to comply by going and getting other homeless to fill that building that they got funded for, because that was the requirement on NOFA. That's the small print. We don't want to get into that. They had to build and then go recruit other people from other areas to live in the housing. This is also one of the ways affirmatively furthering fair housing. This is like with they called it Furthering Fair Housing, AFFH, and it is a nationwide program provided by HUD. We have to be careful. Everything has small print to it. Okay?
Jane?
Many people don't read the fine print. Make sure you do, and then people will be much more at ease, because the people who trust you all want to know that you know this stuff. That we had somebody on the board of the homeless task that said there's plenty of grants available.
I don't have the bell like we did at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, Jane, but
So just make
told
sure you pay attention.
thank you, Jane, very much.
You're welcome.
Can you reset that? Yeah, I told you it was hard to squeeze it all into 3 minutes. And remember too, folks, if you have more that you'd like to say, it's really easy to access the city council members through the City of Yelm's website. There's a button you can push on there that says send a message to mayor, send a message to council. All the council members get those, and we'll respond to those as appropriate. You can also put in a citizens actions request form here at City Hall. So, this isn't the only place that we can hear your voice. Matthew McClellan is the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you for the carrot, Jane.
Someone much older and wiser than me once said that every interaction between two humans is either a loving interaction or a cry for help. In attendance of recent meetings regarding homelessness in our community, I had the unfortunate opportunity to witness a lot of cries for help, both from people who are homeless and those who are not. What's become perfectly clear from the overwhelming majority is that the people of Yelm do not feel like we're well enough equipped to tackle this problem. And so we should pawn the problem off on another community that is. Let's make it very uncomfortable for them to stay here. If you have a heart for them, let them into your home. I hope to one day live in a community which is wealthy enough emotionally, spiritually, and economically, where folks go out of their way to invite these people into their homes. But today is not that day. I'm here to be a voice of the people in our community and use this platform to tell people not to tell people what I think is right, but utilize their voice. A friend reminded me yesterday what makes a republic so beautiful. It allows municipalities like us to tackle our own small problems. But when these problems plague multiple communities, it becomes the responsibility of higher government to create solutions for all Americans to serve the greater good. All I ask of the council is this: do nothing more than you've already done. But please utilize your voice in your place of power to address those in higher government that a solution to homelessness is one of Yelm's greatest needs.
Thank you, Matt. 1 minute and 51 seconds, Jane, just showing you.
I got dinged for the carrots.
I gave you an extra 20 seconds for the carrots.
Good carrots, Jane.
Organic.
Wash them first.
Brenda Surface?
Wiped it off a little bit. Okay.
My name is Brenda Serreris, and I've been at 2 of the 3 meetings, and I would greatly hope that they could extend the task force and add a few more people who have a variety of experience. I have 20 years of experience with mental health. I have a 4-year pre-med degree called a Bachelor of Physical Education. I have 2 years of chiropractic college where I was privileged to study courses like pathology and microbiology. Does anybody on that task force realize that by opening up Yelm to the homeless, that the problem that they're having is hepatitis A, and how would they sterilize and protect the rest of the community from hepatitis A? It's running rampant, and that I would be happy to go and study Buffalo. I have connections there, and study the mentally ill and a few other things and how they've dealt with it, to take a history of it. Because to model Yelm after Marysville, Marysville, their program's only been in existence since 2018. Has anybody ever known anyone who's had alcohol and been rehabbed in this room, and then notice that they revisit it and then they get rehabbed again? So alcohol addiction, drug addiction, mental health, these people, they get stabilized and then they revisit. It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime of a problem to inflict on a society. So if you extend the search and just the study of it, we could have the model study that other places emulate, instead of just copying and adding a few things to the agenda of what we might do. And am I beat?
No.
That's about it. I just hope they extend the study further, because mental health alone, let alone combined with people who take drugs and then they get their mental health problems, on top of maybe a tree falls on your house and you could end up homeless. I mean, there's such a variety of ways someone can get homeless. And to use the system for social services, I personally walked a 10-year-old and his dad through it. I didn't know it. The dad knew about it, but I just offered to take him a ride to Olympia, and I discovered the whole pathway. And nobody's telling us what this pathway is. And it's like, I'd be happy to share what I've learned, but in that one pathway, it took 5.5 months for them to get unhomeless. But we utilized all the services, the churches, and there's meals. You can have meals like 3 nights of the week. You can get coats, you can get clothes. I'm sure there's enough of us in here that we could donate something for those 32 people that are homeless. But really, there's more homeless than that, because you went to social services. Homelessness isn't just not having a roof over your head. It's the 10 years you lived with your parents that your name wasn't on the lease. You are considered homeless. So the 3 drug houses that are within 1 block from where I live, let's say there's 10 people in each of those houses. Those are 30 homeless people right there.
Brenda, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to us. Bob Coral.
I'll be as brief as I can.
I know you.
I circulated an article that I wrote to as many people as I could because I was out of the area last week. I'm going to read you just a couple of excerpts just so I can make a few points. According to join.org, homelessness can essentially be broken down into 4 categories: chronic, episodic, transitional, and hidden. In our community, the second category is the primary problem. Episodic homeless refers to individuals who are currently homeless and have experienced at least 3 periods of homelessness in the previous year. These individuals are often younger and suffer from some type of disabling condition such as substance abuse, mental illness, and or medical problems. I put in some research in here in this article regarding the statistics on drug abuse, and I'll just tell you that you need to recognize that it is a drug problem for us anyway, not a homeless problem. And you need to empower the law, create codes and enforce them, and do something to solve the problem of the police being understaffed. There was an article on October 8th, sad state of affairs, Thurston County Sheriff's Office ranks 37th out of 39 counties for staffing. That's not good. Maybe our money should be going toward that. The other thing is we need to give the police naloxone. Of the 710 overdose deaths statewide in 2018, 213 involved a synthetic opioid like fentanyl. You need naloxone in order to counteract those things. It's far more humane and frankly more effective to take these people in. By that I mean arrest them, house them somewhere. The former Thurston County Jail, for example, as Sheriff Snazza pointed out in July in the Squally Valley News. But don't allow these people to abuse the system and our good natures. Treat them, rehabilitate them, train them in basic employable skills, and monitor them after the fact like they do in Rhode Island. So everybody should, as a homework assignment, watch Seattle is Dying and then look at what's going on in Rhode Island with the Rhode Island Department of Corrections, with the MAP program, Medical Assistance Treatment. And if you check that out, you will also find that it was mentioned in NPR, and even the federal government is looking at making that a nationwide solution. But the solution of bringing people to Yelm, as we're gonna make it like there's a shelter here. Once you do that, we fill that one up, then they'll fill the next one up, and then they'll fill the next one up, and so on and so on. Take a look at what's going on in Seattle, San Francisco, even Olympia now, downtown, if you go downtown. We don't want that here. That's why everybody was so upset in those meetings. I felt personally like the task force had an agenda and they were going in a direction that the community didn't want. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I have one last speaker signed up for blue card. It's Jeannie, and I can't say your last name. Directly. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Jeannie.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm very concerned about the homeless task force plan, especially the part introduced by Molly at the last meeting for a permanent homeless task force. To me, that says you want to keep this going no matter what we the people say. There are programs, churches, community organizations that help those who want to be helped. Your proposed program tends to try to help those who have no will to change, thus becoming a burden on the community with a never-ending need for money and services. There are some who do not want to be helped and have a history of instability and theft. One concern of mine is the effect of drugs. We live next door to a lady whose friend was a crazed druggy person who abused his girlfriend, and there were more nights than we were comfortable with. We had to hit the floor because gunshots were being set off in multiple directions. One day he shot and killed her at a party, not in our neighborhood. But during that time, the police rarely showed up. I also have concerns for my grandson, who occasionally rides his bike in town and to school. And all his friends, all of the children should be safe in our town. Yelm does not deserve allowing Seattle or any other city drug-fried, unresponsible, homeless people to relocate in small towns like ours. It is clear that some of you are up for election and treading lightly with transparency on this issue. But a permanent task force reeks of government overreach and agendas that Yelm does not have the resources for. We have a failing water system. The bypass is not complete. The splash park was over budget more than $363,000. What good is a really cute park if it becomes dangerous to use? How can we trust that these funds to support this project would come close to what we would need with a lack of budget, knowledge, and future situations. I propose that you commit tonight and listen to all of the well-informed and concerned people who came to the meeting, and that you do not let this continue. I propose that if you do not stop this program, and there are those who are up for re-election against you, become unreelected, and that and those of you who are not up for re-election, boycott your businesses. You do not listen to the people. Then maybe we have a council who's left of newly elected, or those who listen to the people, who support and listen to our community, bringing safety and prosperity to Yelm.
Did you practice that? That was almost exactly 3 minutes.
Exactly 3 minutes. Wow.
Applause, wow. That doesn't happen very often.
Maybe what's so good?
We don't have any more cards, but a couple of points were brought up that I do want to take a moment to address while the commentary is still lingering fresh in the air. Here, I'll wait for Jeannie to. Did you need a carrot? Party favors. Just in response to Mr. Corral's talk, I just want to clarify 2 very important points. The Sheriff's Department budget is not something that the City of Yelm has any control over. Their staffing issues are at a county level, and you as residents can have effect on that by talking to county commissioners and voting on county-wide issues. Secondly, we beat you to it. We do have Narcan available. Our officers all carry Narcan, naloxone, and we've done so just in the last year, and so do the county deputies. Good. So that's, and we've already deployed it several times and saved lives in the process, so that's cool. One really important thing that it's, I don't know a better time to do it. There was a really widespread rumor that the Seattle mayor had called me and said, I want to send a bunch of homeless people down to Yelm. I'm going to give them a bus pass. So I talked to the staff up there, and no such program exists. Now, first off, think about it. To get somebody from Seattle to Yelm would be quite a thing. You'd have to get them down to King Street Station, then they'd have to get down to the Tacoma Station, then take the Tacoma line down to at least 2 transfer stations, and then take the 94 line to come out to Yelm. And why would they do that? We don't have any services here. What the Seattle program does have is a homeward bound program, where if a homeless person identifies a place they want to go to, where they have family, they have places that would take them in, then they will give them a bus pass to help expedite that movement away. And they hand out about 75 of those a year, I think, is about what they're at. That's again, the only time that would really occur is if there was some person who was from Yelm who wants to come home to Yelm. That program might apply, but it's not something that's being done. And lastly, I just want to help you understand that we're looking forward to the task force recommendations to council, but since my administration began in 2017, we have done 3 things that are important for everybody to understand. We rescue people from immediate peril. We always have. Our officers will find somebody on the street. We will not let them be too cold or too hot. We won't let them be hungry or unclothed. If they are in a vulnerable situation, we provide access to services that exist in the regional area. We give them a bus pass, or we take them there in our patrol cars, or in some other way. If a woman has just escaped domestic violence, she's not left on her own. We have access to services. If somebody is homeless, we can have Sidewalk come out from Olympia, and they will make contact with that person and try to provide them access to service. We've always been doing that. And thirdly, we hold people accountable to the laws and ordinances that we have in this city. We have worked hard as councils in the past to make sure that there's strong ordinances that protect people from aggressive panhandling, that limit the amount of camping that people can do. And so we've enforced those. We've cleaned up drug houses, and we've done a lot of these things. But circle back around, we will not let somebody be in a vulnerable situation without providing them access to services. And lastly, I and some of the other council members have been active on regional boards like the Community Investment Partnership, where we channel money from federal, state, county, and even private donations to fund these organizations like Sidewalk, like Safe Place, and Pear Tree, and others like that, so that people have a place to go. Rather than rebuild these facilities right here, we are taking advantage of them. And as the task force recommendations come forward, if there are some that the council feels that we can accommodate, both with staff and with budgeting, then they'll consider those. And if they pass those, then I, as the mayor and our executive branch, will work to implement those policies. So just wanted to make sure you all understood that. And now we can move on to our consent agenda, which has the financial report and vouchers from September.
I move we approve tonight's consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
And here comes the document for your signature. In new business, we have the sidewalk replacement contract award. Now we're getting into the fun stuff, right, Derek?
Yes.
And Derek McCoy will give us a presentation.
Honorable members of the council, I come forward to you tonight to ask that you authorize the award bid for the 2019 sidewalk replacement project to NPM Construction Company of Maple Valley for bid cost of $117,142. This amount is inclusive of sales tax. The contract provides safety improvements throughout the city of Yelm, replacing sections of sidewalks that present tripping hazards and limited protection from adjacent traffic. It will replace in kind sections of sidewalks and ADA ramps that are in disrepair and causing tripping hazards, as well as replacing existing sidewalks in some locations that are wider and include curb to protect them from traffic. The project was advertised in the Squally Valley News and the Seattle Daily Journal of Commerce on September 5th and September 12th, and was posted on the Builders Exchange of Washington during that time. On October 1st, we received 7 sealed bids, and they were opened. And the initial low bidder was Rodark Construction, who contacted us and stated that they had made a significant error in their bid, and therefore requested to rescind and step away. And knowing that that probably, even if we were to hold them to that, we would probably not be very happy with the product that we got at the end. So NPM was the next lowest bid, and their bid fell right in between, in the probable engineer's opinion, of probable construction cost of $125,000. Are there any questions?
Council? And I'll have council, and then if you have a question, we'll get to yours in a second, please. Go ahead.
Do you have any like specific areas of sidewalk that you guys are going to be working on, or is this just sort of general repair around the city?
So there were 20, no, roughly 20, 25 that were replacing kind, so they've been marked out. They were part of the previous survey. A few months back, we went through and did some repairs by grinding. At the same time, there were some locations where the sidewalk was broken or evil and was recommended to be replaced. So those 22 locations are place in kind, essentially taking the broken sidewalk out and putting it back exactly as it is. 2 other locations where we will similar conditions, but we're taking the opportunity to put in a curb where there currently is not, providing a wider. Although it does not in any way change any kind of pattern as far as staying out in this issue. Strictly in the sidewalk section of the right of way.
Derek, to Molly's question, will there be a place on the website where these projects, because there's quite a few of them, there's some as small as ADA ramps and they're scattered all over, where somebody could look and see where that project might be located in their neighborhood?
Included in the construction documents that were provided to them, there is a Excel spreadsheet of the locations They only buy address for the replacing kind, and there's a PowerPoint presentation that I did at home construction.
Did that answer your question, Councilmember? And so I'll have Derek call on each council member in turn.
Just construction timeline. I know we were pretty quick about the grinding of the last section. How long do we expect this to take, and when do we expect it to start?
So part of the contract was that all work be completed no later than the 31st. But it leaves the contractor open to them and work it, ask them to Yes.
It's coming out of the sidewalk repair fund as part of the budget.
There is a budget amendment that has been identified that needs to be initiated. I believe Michael Graham was. There will be a budget amendment that come from it. There is money in the budget. We just have to be.
Great, and then maybe it's more probably for Michael to answer it, but I was just curious how much left is in that fund for the sidewalk repairs.
Yeah, we can get that number for you for sure. But
okay. Thank you.
As part of the budgeting process, it's a 2-year budget now. The budget's set one way, and then on the odd years, budget amendment is made that we would make sure the monies were available for the projects going forward. So this one's already been identified, but we're in the process of working with finance to demonstrate that to council by December, so that you can see where we are going forward.
Thank you.
Wait, anybody else on council? Did you have a question?
I did. Is this a local contractor? Down the low bid, next to the low bid?
The next low bid, they were out of Maple Valley.
So did we have any local bidders?
I would have to go back and look at the ones that were in there, but they weren't excluded out to. It was posted and advertised, and so it wasn't. If they didn't, they weren't excluded from the bidding. They just didn't submit the bid.
Right, but was this was in the paper, or is that where it comes out in the paper? So my question, I think, is this 2020 December or 2019 that you think it's done?
It's 31 December 2019.
Should be
roughly
finished, and the council still has to okay it, right? So is there still a chance for local bidders?
No, the bid has already been, contractor's already been selected. And
before the council tonight is to accept that bid to do that work. To reiterate Derek's point, if you look at the background material, 7 bids were received after it was advertised in the normal places that we advertise. These construction companies, local and regional, look for those advertisements because that's the work they do, and had submitted bids. So I can't tell you by looking at the list if any of those are directly local, but they're regional, and they employ local people oftentimes to do their job lots.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Derek? If not, you have a recommendation before you.
I move we authorize Mayor J.W. Foster to award the project to and sign the construction contract with NPM Construction Company of Maple Valley, Washington in the not-to-exceed amount of $117,142.00. This amount is inclusive of sales tax.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Get some sidewalks prepared. Resolution's not the one, it's the second resolution. We now have a resolution to come before council. Chief, did you want to address the council on this before I read the resolution?
yeah, sure.
Come on up. Introduce yourself, if you would, please.
Sure. Chief Mark King with Southeast Thurston Fire Authority, and we cover the city of Yelm, Rainier, and the surrounding districts. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for a moment of your time. I know you've already covered this, so I'll be brief and then take questions. But as you know, we've applied for a state capital facilities grant, specifically for the remodel and upgrade of the Lake Lawrence Fire Station. That's important for a number of reasons, most important being that currently when there's a call to Lake Lawrence area, resources from the city of Yelm are going out to Lake Lawrence, leaving the city unprotected. And then secondly, it's great for the folks in Lake Lawrence. And then lastly, it gives us redundancy. So when we have those multiple cold days in Yelm, we have units available from Lake Lawrence, not from Lacey or Olympia, and also for those high-risk events. So I would encourage your support on the resolution. That's what we're asking for our application for state capital project funds. And I will take any questions.
Thank you for coming out here and speaking up for the people at Lake Lawrence area. Growing up there, I really appreciate that. I understand that station hasn't been in operation for a while now. We've talked about this and discussed this multiple times. I think this is a pretty easy yes vote. So, thank you.
Okay, if no further questions, I'll read the resolution out loud, and then I will take a vote on it. It is, the way it's configured is to have signatures from each of the council members. If there's a no vote from any council member, that council member will not sign the resolution.
I just had one quick question. So just to clarify for everybody, this is not taking money from Yelm city funds, right? This is
Department of Commerce grant that we're applying for.
State monies, yeah.
Did you want a carrot?
So resolution 601, a resolution supporting Southeast Thurston Fire Authority's remodeling, reopening of Station 22. Whereas the city of Yelm is a partner with Southeast Thurston Fire Authority, and whereas Southeast Thurston Fire Authority is pursuing grant funding for the remodel and reopening of Lake Lawrence Fire Station number 22 out on 153rd Avenue. Now therefore be it resolved that the city of Yelm has pledged its support for Southeast Thurston Fire Authority's remodeling, reopening of Lake Lawrence Fire Station number 22, and we would adopt that on this date, 22nd October. Question?
I move to adopt resolution number 601.
Second.
Well, that's pretty much the majority of second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I will, and we hope that you get that successful bid with the state. Sign that, put that back in. Thanks, Chief. Literally has fires to go put out. We now have before us resolution number 602. Michael, are you presenting on that?
Thank you. I'll keep it brief, Council, because you've talked about this at great length as you transition from an annual budget to a biennial budget. You've seen this document before. We asked for any changes. I know it was heavily worked by the Finance Committee. I didn't receive any changes, and so I don't see any reason why you couldn't vote and enact it tonight. It does include the budget process that will kick off for us to adjust the biennial budget, which is we've talked about will actually start on your first meeting in November, which is the study session, and we'll go through as long as it needs to, or just to update or rebate 2019. It also includes new elements that you added, re-emphasizing and affirming your first as a council strategic plan, looking at initiating a community survey and establishing some performance measures that will provide better information flow, both to you as the city.
I move we authorize resolution number 602 establishing a budget development schedule, a resolution formalizing the budget schedule for future biennial budgets.
Second.
Thank you for abridging that. Any other discussion?
Just a quick question on the survey. I know we were kind of debating some of the details of this. Even though we authorize this resolution, if we authorize it, nothing locks us into we have to do something a certain way for the survey or something a certain way for that. Okay, just want to clarify for everybody. This locks in essentially the big pieces. More process will follow of what type of survey you use, what type of questions you ask, how it's distributed. There's a lot more work to do in that. It's just a framework. So it's very important though.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. have the resolution. I think as we're in the middle of doing it. Yes. Good work. We have no old business to attend to this evening, so we'll go right into department updates, starting with Michael Graham, City Administrator.
Good evening, Council. I'll keep this brief. I want to give you a couple updates. First of all, just want to encourage everyone here in the audience and watching on TV to apply for our boards and commissions. If you go on our website, it has the applications and the different boards and commissions that we have. The tally is, I think, the Arts Commission, the Yelm Arts Commission has 2 applications so far. The Historic Preservation Commission has 1 vacancy. So we need one person for that, and we, I think, can have up to, do you guys remember how many on the Arts Commission? 7? So 5 more people could apply for the Arts Commission, 1 for the Yelm Historic Preservation Commission, 4 vacancies for the Yelm Tree Advisory Board, if that's appealing for folks. And specifically a shout out if we know anyone, we still haven't gotten anyone from Yelm Community Schools. If any of you know anyone, that'd be helpful. Couple of other updates for you. Tomorrow night we have the Boys and Girls Club ribbon cutting ceremony at 5 p.m. Encourage everyone to come out and celebrate that milestone. Another update related to that, we're working with them to expedite their process. They have to essentially partition the building like we talked about and planned to create a Veterans Resource Center. So it's up to them to partition that building and make some of those adjustments, and we're looking at some options for that to happen because we have a lot of veterans organizations that are eager to get in there and utilize that building. Until that happens, as we've talked about earlier, the veterans organizations are the community center and then our office up here at the front, and then there's also a private office. When the VFW moves their stuff out of that private office, they can then use that private office. So trying to create as many options as possible.
Could you list over the different veterans organizations?
Can you email a list of veterans organizations?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head, though? For once.
Sure. There
I
is
was curious for the public so they could hear it.
Veterans of Foreign Wars. There is Wear Blue, Run to Remember. There is Heroes Promise. There is the Foreign Legion. We already did them. American Legion. We have VFW, the state. We have Joint Base Lewis McChord. We have the Nisqually Tribe. Who else, Tad? You sat in on these meetings.
I was trying to remember. There was about 4 other ones that that I hadn't heard of.
NAMI, the mental health folks that come and partner. Lacey Veteran Service Hub, which we're partnering with to be a satellite station.
You said some of them are already using facilities currently?
VFW is, yeah.
VFW is, okay.
Yeah. The American Legion is the only one that actually has their own physical structure and space in the community. They've got that old Sandlot ballpark out of there. But yeah, VFW is the one that they operate out of a church. So they use our community center over here. And they're the ones that really provide services and counseling to veterans that are clamoring for that kind of private office.
Awesome. Thank you.
Not to forget the Veterans Administration also reaches out. They have operatives in the area that reach out to about 50 different veterans in the community every month. And some of those, it's hard for them to find places for them to meet. Like they'll meet at McDonald's or in a home, but they would prefer to do it in an office space. So that's what we're using the space for currently.
This is why Councilmember Carmody said email the list, because I'm sure we're still forgetting a couple of folks. So apologies to anyone that's being forgotten.
A question back there.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that this building?
No, the community center's across the street.
Right, I know, but you're talking about all of this for the community center and the
old city hall.
The old
No,
city
the
hall.
old city hall.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The couple of other things, just talking about community involvement. So the Yelm Police Citizens Academy kicked off. They had 11 participants, and I think all 11 showed up. Maybe we were 1 short. But it's a great opportunity for folks to come in and learn about the police department and all the nuances of the challenges and the opportunities that they face as they serve and protect. The other couple things I want to follow up on from the last meeting are, we had a gentleman come in who was concerned about the existing policy of when you have a leak, there's 2 processes. You have a high leak, you're charged that dollar amount, there's a mathematical equation. In both cases, whether you fix it immediately, you're still charged a pretty high dollar amount when we did the math. You're also charged a high dollar amount if you don't fix it immediately. So I just wanted to follow up with you and let you know we had great conversations with him. I actually went out and looked at his facility, and we have some options that we'll run through the normal process, going through the General Government Committee, and then to any other appropriate after. But just wanted to let you know that that's in play. The other thing that we had a council member bring up on behalf of constituents was the utility refunds when you move out of one place and into the other. I remember a council member bringing this up. I just want to let you know that also was resolved. We actually had a hiccup in our process. It's not normal. It was a good catch. We had our AP staff person realize that our utility billing clerk, when they were processing and issuing refunds when folks were moving out of houses or transitioning from rental agreements and whatnot, that person was just fully empowered to issue the checks. There was no checks and balances. We didn't discover any errors, but the AP process, as we look at putting in new financial policies and protocols, said we really should put a stop to just automatically issuing these out. There should be some sort of review. So unfortunately, there was a review, and now we have a new process in place that will go forward and make sure that that is both efficient, but there are checks and balances. So thanks to whoever brought that up. And we are also looking into utility meters, Councilmember. So far, we haven't identified any errors in those, but we're trying to go. There weren't any specific houses that were identified, so we're just kind of working the whole neighborhood. Give you an update on the meters that have been replaced. So far, we're still about.
They were replaced, I think, in June or July.
So that's the main update that I have there. The other thing I wanted to let folks know is we are getting a credit card processing machine out at Public Works, which may mean nothing to you unless you have an animal. When we collect lost pets and we take them to the kennel at Public Works, it's really not customer service friendly to then have people have to drive all the way here to City Hall, make a payment, and then turn around and drive back to Public Works to get their dog. So we're in the process of ordering new credit card machines and kiosks so that we can out there, make it more official for people to collect their pets, make the payment, and take their pup home if they want to do. So just one other outward facing improvement that we are looking at. Looking forward, there has been a new addendum to the SWAT contract. So our police chief will come back to you at a future council meeting with that. And looking forward, as I said, we have the 2019-2020 budget amendment process. We'll have an overview of that at the next study session, and then every meeting thereout will be focused on the budget. Then the other couple of things looking forward, we have a jury trial contract with Thurston County that will be brought forth, and also a Habitat for Humanity presentation on November 11th. And then in December, we will be receiving and presenting you all with, I guess you all will be presenting yourself with the Homeless Recommendations Task Force with some analysis by staff once that final report is completed. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Mike.
You don't know him as well as I do.
That was a softball.
Wow.
T-ball.
There you go.
All right, Councilmember Curry.
I attended 2 of the 3 homeless meetings, and I found it very informative. And look forward to your presentation to the council when we get ready. I attended the chat with the chief. We had about 14 people there. And it was a busy car prowl month for the police department. And the senior center will be having their Christmas holiday bazaar this weekend. So if you would all drop in, and I know we're very early, but if you'd all drop in, we'd appreciate it. And that's it.
Okay, so just to address the crowd here, as far as the homelessness task force goes, we just finished the very preliminary part of it. So what happens next is now that the task force has decided on its recommendations and voted on them, we all had different opinions on what Yelm should be doing going forward. I only think that we should have just a homelessness commission going forward, just like the tree board or the arts commission. Just a standard commission that monitors the homelessness situation and starts to report to council on maybe a quarterly basis. That is just the most minimal thing that I think that we can do, but I do think that we need to monitor the situation. After we've given our recommendations to the city staff is going to cost those out and say, well, how much is each one of these recommendations actually going to cost? If you say we want more law enforcement, that might mean more police officers. That might mean more gas in their cars. That might mean more time in, paying for the jails. So everything has a cost. So the city staff is going to start costing those out. Once city staff has costed those out, then we'll make a formal presentation to city council. City council will either accept the package as a whole or pick apart the package and say, no, we don't like this piece, or this piece, or we don't like any of it. It's going to be a very transparent process. And again, this will go through the pre-voting process that we have established. So you'll have one study session, first reading, and then a second reading. So everybody will have time to comment. That being said, there is no program to bus people to Yelm. I can promise you, like JW said. As far as that goes, that's that on the homelessness task force. The Nisqually River Council meeting that I attended was, we had a presentation on the recession of the Nisqually Glacier and how it affects the Nisqually riverbed. So as the glacier recedes at the rate of a meter every 10 days in the summertime, more gravel is carried into the river. So the river is slowly flattening out over time. An interesting thing. The Air City Transit, we performed our second review of the 2020 draft budget and the 2020 and 2025 draft strategic plan. And just so you all know, on December 5th, JW and I have worked together to create our first ever Yelm University. Pretty exciting. All of the departments will stand up and give a little presentation on what each department does, how it interacts with the other departments and the public, and then everybody will, have a chance to ask questions of those department heads. And that's going to happen on December 5th at 6:30 p.m. over at the community center. So come one, come all. Hopefully it'll be a good time, very informative for everybody.
We'll have carrots.
Maybe snacks, yeah. That's it.
So I attended the first annual Yelm pub crawl this weekend, which I'm not a big drinker, even though I was in the Navy for 9 years. But it was awesome. The conversation was great. I think the best part about it was just getting to meet people in an environment where they felt comfortable and they talked about their problems and shared what they cared about the city. Like, you wouldn't think that you would get a lot of feedback during a pub crawl, but you do. And so that was really awesome, just to interact with people on a relaxing basis instead of a formal setting, which I thought was really good. I was able to watch the homeless task force meetings on YouTube, and just kudos to the city for being able to get those online so we could watch them live. And kudos to everyone who attended and gave their voice. I think the biggest thing that surprised me is that hundreds of people showed up for those, telling us what they want, and normally we don't get that feedback. So getting that feedback is super helpful for us, because that makes me able to make a decision when I get presented with stuff, because I was able to watch what you guys wanted online versus having to scam through emails or send feelers out to see what people want. So thank you guys for everybody showing up for that, and keep coming to these meetings every day and every time we have these, and tell us what you want here, because that way the rest of us that weren't at those meetings can feel and hear what you guys want. So that helps us out a lot. Besides that, nothing else to report.
I also watched the task force meetings online. I felt that it gave me a better opportunity just to listen and not be engaged emotionally with what was going on or what may or may not have been happening. And it really is important that we hear your voices and opinions, because everybody here, we don't all agree. You may notice that at times. But it's nice that we can listen and we can form opinions and be your voice. Otherwise, we just are trying to do what we think is best. So that is really good. I'm glad everybody's here, and hopefully you'll be involved in other things as we go forward. Maybe not quite as polarizing items, but more positive things that come out of the city. So it's very, very welcoming to see everybody involved. 2 weeks ago, I attended the emergency management meeting with Chief Stansel. A lot of great things going on. It dawned on me that I would like to bring to the General Governance Committee that we possibly bring the person who wrote our emergency management plan on board, so that we're not trying to recreate that every 6 years. And so that'll be coming to the council, I'm sure, in the future. And then a public safety committee today, just to clarify the car prowl issue. Most of those, it's my understanding, are unlocked cars. up to 80%, I believe it is, 90%. So if you don't want your car looked in or broke into, lock it. That'll help. Also going over the emergency management, sign up for rave. Means we're all here, not the rave with the neon and the electronic music, but a emergency system that will notify you if we have something going on by phone, text, email, if you can get after that. And really, Michael covered the rest of what I was going to cover on the public safety.
They did 2 tests, I believe, this week.
Yes.
That
Oh, that's
Thurston
right.
County. So if you got a text or didn't get a text and you thought you were on it, they did 2 tests this week. So you should have gotten 2 messages, one from the city, one from Thurston County.
I guess just to explain what that is, if there's an issue in the city or in your area in the county, they will send you a text message or a phone call. Being most of us don't have landlines any longer, you have to go in and sign up for it and put your cell phone in there. And they tested it this week with a great shakeout, and I'm sure somebody will cover that, how that went. But sign up for it, it's free. You can enroll, and if there's special needs in your home, you can put that information in if there's an emergency. That's all I have.
I also attended the homelessness task force meeting. It was awesome to have an opportunity to really get to talk to some of the folks that were really felt passionate about it. And that's my report.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Attended study meeting, South Thurston Economic Development Initiative. Biggest thing we were discussing over there was in Bucota. They do a resolution every year and they changed the name to Bucota because of the haunted house. If you haven't been, I'd highly recommend it. It's one of the best haunted houses out there.
Pronouncing it wrong.
No, Bucota is how they pronounce it. Yeah, just for the month of October, and they change back. Yeah, it's a really good haunted house. That's actually one of their biggest revenue generators for this town of Bucota. And
They just passed a resolution to ban them in Thurston County, FYI.
haunted houses? Oh, I didn't hear about that. I'll have to let them know.
Boo.
Boo. Attended a public safety meeting. I don't know what else to say. They all stole my thunder here, Michael did. So the only other thing I can add to it is we got Mr. Sergeant Carlson will be going up to Assistant Chief starting next month. So excited for that. He's a great officer, and he's going to be Assistant Chief now, so that'll be great. Regarding the Homeless Task Force, Councilmember Carmody pretty much said it all. The only thing I would like to add to that is one, thank you for all the residents that came out and made your voices heard. You know, it might not, I try to be as neutral as I can up there. It just facilitate the meeting. So it might seem that I'm against you sometimes, or it might seem like I'm for you. I just try to maintain as much neutrality on that as I could. And your voices have been heard loud and clear, and hopefully through my recommendations you saw that. Lastly, thank you to Jason and Andrew, who were employees for the city that worked behind the scenes to make everything possible on YouTube and the audio so you could hear us. So thank you, big kudos to them. Michael, if you could extend my gratitude to them, I'd appreciate it.
You just did, they're watching.
Oh, they're on. Jason. Thank you, Andrew. Both of them are up there?
They're making it happen right now for you.
They're not up there, Joe.
Oh, they're not up there? I thought they were here and under. No, that's all right. We're old school like that. I figure that's how they're doing it. Thank you, Michael, for the repaving of that, not repaving, but following up on that with some of the residents concerned regarding the chip seal. Brushing it seems like it's made a big difference, making it a lot smoother. I know what's going on in a few different neighborhoods, and big concern for them because it was pretty jagged, and it's starting to smooth out now through that process. And so far, I've been hearing good things. So thank you for that. That's all I've got. Oh yeah, sure. The mailbox program. So the mailbox submitted something. Was it last month or the month before?
It was this month. This month you submitted.
It was already this month? Jeez. All right. Earlier this month, I think it was like October 1, maybe. But, so it's close to last month. But, submitted a proposal for a secure mailbox program here in Yelm. And it's modeled after the city of SeaTax, and it's also been adopted by the city of Tukwila. And what it is basically the city would purchase in bulk mailboxes, and we would do a sign-up program thank you, Councilmember Wood, for that suggestion. I think that was really reasonable to limit the funds spent on this. But we would be reimbursed by someone who wanted a mailbox. They would just go to City Hall and say, hey, we like it at cost, which is about $109 or $108 versus $149 that you can normally buy it at. And the goal of this program is to, one, reduce mail theft, and two, to provide secure mailboxes at a reduced cost for our residents here in Yelm. And hopefully this mail theft has hit me personally, as well as I know a lot of folks here in Yelm, and it's a big issue. So hopefully this addresses a lot of it. It's not going to solve the problem completely, but I do believe it'll make an impact and hopefully help folks. And that will be it.
Well, my report is nowhere near as fun as that. I attended Thurston Thrives, very serious 2-hour meeting, and there was so much that we covered. JW was there, you can fill in gaps that I can't fill in. But just briefly, we had a lady from the Thurston County Public Health and Social Services speak to us and conduct roundtable discussion on the equity gap in Thurston County, what we're learning about health and well-being for all the people across the county. So in 2013, Thurston County was deemed the 8th healthiest county in the state of Washington, and now we are the 5th. But the discussion was a lot about equity and equality. And I actually found that the most interesting thing because I didn't really know quite what the difference was. So if I can get this right, equality is when you give the same thing to everybody so they have an equal thing. But equity is if you need something different, so I supply that thing to you, meaning if everybody wants to ride a bicycle, everybody can have the same bike, or if you're little, you can get a tricycle, or you can get a unicycle. Whatever you need to be equal, that's what the difference is between equality. And the best visual I thought of that was when they had somebody just looking over a fence line. So if you're tall, you can look over the fence. If you're a baby, you need 3 crates to look over the fence. So equity is about giving people what they need. So this was a huge cross-section discussion across the county. Some of the interesting things I didn't know, there was a lot in the school systems. It was disturbing to hear that the leading cause of death in 10 to 17-year-olds was suicide. I mean, it's just terrible. And that in grades 8 to 12, 25% of the students consider suicide as an
It's up 53% in the last 10 years.
Yeah, crazy. You know, increased alcohol use over the age of, over the 12th graders. But despite all the statistics, there was still an 80% degree of hopefulness in kids in 12th grade and up. So just a lot of statistics, but just a regional look and how all these wonderful partners are coming together to solve some of these equity problems. And now, please,
that was
anything I forgot.
No, that was great segue. I did also attend this was a task force, if you will, of regional partners who came together, mostly from Thurston County, some from outside the county, coordinated by Thurston Thrives, to identify these things. And this, Mary Ann from the health department is data, she's a numbers cruncher. She brings in data points from all over the place, and some of the graphs were just mind-boggling that demonstrated what these equity gaps really are. Why some people in certain situations in life would struggle to achieve the same thing that somebody with better opportunities could achieve. And how do we even that playing field out? Not so much to give an advantage to somebody over somebody else, but to provide opportunity for them. When one of our tabletop exercises that Terry and I were both at was to identify things that you have done in your community already, be introspective. And it was actually really kind of reinforcing to us to look at what we've already done in the Yelm area, particularly in coordination with the Yelm Community School District, where an adult in our community who wasn't successful in high school can now go to Yelm High School through a South Puget Sound Community College program and get their high school diploma in evening classes. Where somebody who wants to start a business can come right here to Yelm City Hall, and the Economic Development Council on Tuesdays, they were here today, will provide them with coaching to get their business successful. Where Enterprise for Equity has come in and partnered with the City of Yelm to provide classes for people on adult financial literacy. We're doing a lot of those things. We have programs like Together, working in our middle schools. We're mentoring kids. We are connected, and And it was called out, and it was noticed by the others in the group that for a small community, we really come together and not just talk about stuff, but do stuff. And that was really important. So thank you for participating in that as well. So I have a few things to report since I was gone the last meeting. On the 3rd, Leadership Thurston County, which is a great program that brings people from all sorts of businesses together to learn about life in the county, they came out here and did a little tour. They do a whole tour of Thurston County, and they spent about a half an hour with us here learning about local opportunities, and we find that they all want to come back, which is nice. On the 4th, I went to the Thurston Regional Planning Council, of which I'm the vice chair. This is the group that provides, basically it provides a planning organization for the region, and many times federal and state monies are channeled or funneled through this organization, and we have benefited from their decisions to fund Yelm projects many, many times in the past, so it's a good organization to be a part of. On the 5th through the 9th, as a board member for the Risk Management Services Agency, which I'll talk about in just a moment, I went to the AGRIP conference in Cleveland. This is all paid for by the association, so this is no cost to the city except my time. It's an excellent opportunity for me to talk about one of the most incredibly boring subjects you can think of. It's the Association of Government Risk Insurance Pools. You almost fell asleep just saying it. But some of the things that we learned about are of such importance to us here in Yelm. For example, we had classes on risk avoidance, which seems like a minor thing, but you come back and you realize we could improve our risk avoidance things and so we safeguard our employees and our citizens by taking a look at sometimes the smallest of things. We had a large presentation on body cams and dash cams, which are in the news often, and why they can be a boon and they can be a pitfall to agencies if they're not used properly, if they don't have the right policies. And then very interestingly, people will say, for example, well, if you could just see the video, that would explain it all. And the best example of that was, oh really, have you ever watched a football game? With people on both sides, right, looking at the same replay video from 6 different angles, and their opinions are changed by that. So very important to understand that they are not the be-all, end-all, but we can talk about this with more knowledge now. One of our most important sessions was on post-traumatic stress disorder, both as a preventative tact and as a presumptive issue. So we understand that people in law enforcement and the fire department, and quite obviously public works and teachers, can be exposed to traumatic incidents that cause lifelong changes in them. And this was a great conversation about avoidance and treatment. Coming back from that, on the 14th, I was South Sound representative to the Community Investment Partnership. I referenced that earlier. This is the organization that helps provide funding for organizations that help people in our communities and in the region. On the 16th, back to RMSA, the Risk Management Services Agency. And I hope you find this interesting, because when you first come into the city on city council, you don't necessarily know this. But we all have insurance plans, right? One would hope that you have your insurance on your car, insurance on your health, and so forth. Well, the city needs insurance as well. But instead of going to a private company that could provide us insurance, and the open market provides that, there's this concept that was created in Washington State 40 years ago, I think, where cities or organizations can pool together and self-fund their own insurance, which is a great cost savings. Nobody's making money off this. We're all supporting each other. So the City of Yelm has belonged to the Risk Management Services Agency, which is an insurance pool under the auspices of the Association of Washington Cities. 99 other cities of the 281 cities in the state of Washington belong to the RMSA. And we support each other with our contributions to that risk pool. So they look at our contributions based on how much property we have, how many employees we have, and how many hours they work, which would increase our opportunity for liabilities. A number of other factors like that. And then they have a factor of how many times have we applied for claims against the pool, and that tells us what our contributions are going to be for that year. We're always looking for ways, as our city clerk and HR clerk will tell you, we're always looking for ways to reduce that liability. And in so doing, we were awarded a major award at the RMSA meeting in Chelan. We got the 2% award. Only 7 cities out of our 100 received this lovely plaque, which is that we had 2%, more than 2% reduction in our claims for liability against the pool's resources. Which, of course, results in what?
A refund.
Not so much.
Reduction in rate.
Lowered contributions in the future, support for our other cities. It's a very cooperative organization, and as a board member, I've learned that yes, some pools actually do treat that as a refund and send that monies back out to the cities. We put it into our programs overall, and so reduce everybody's exposure, which is seems to work better for us. But again, a great organization. Oh, and by the way, that's also mostly paid for by the risk pool itself, and in fact, just by attending, we get a $500 grant for safety purposes back here to the city, not just a lovely plaque. But that was interesting. On the 19th, I attended the Senior Services of South Sound. This is the group that, and many other things that they do, mostly in the urban core, but they've been the ones who have been providing Meals on Wheels out here to our homebound residents and others, and supporting our senior center out here. Good organization to be supportive of. Talked about the health equity. And lastly, I did want to talk, we already talked about the car prowls. One last mention on the homelessness task force. Do want to make sure everybody understands that we did allocate $2,500 for the support of that. It's been said that we haven't spent any of that, but actually we've spent about almost $2,700 on it. These are hard costs of our employees like Jason and Andrew up there, who are probably putting little emojis around us right now. What is that called when you put the stuff on the phone? Snapchat. They're probably Snapchatting us right now. But paying them the overtime to support the task force meetings and a number of other things, and I've got a hard copy of what those costs are, just for anybody's edification of that.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you all for being here.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. We're adjourned.
So quick. So fast.
I didn't want Joe to take my thunder this time.
Staying for the whole time. See, I was very kind to you. Picture?
We went through that equity 8.